Hello everybody, I'm Krasiattasio and this is my prognosis forecast for the month of February. I am usually following the path of the moon from the first visibility of the first lunar crescent. And because the first lunar crescent is marking the beginning of the new lunar month, and this is happening on the 6th of February. Of course, I will talk about the 6 days before that, so my predictions will be from the beginning of February until the end of February, but just note that we are following up the path of the moon, because on her path, the moon meets planets, fixed stars. These are divinities, these are living objects which create events for us. So what is happening is on the 1st of February, the moon is meeting Saturn in Sagittarius. When the moon is with Saturn and Pluto in Sagittarius, this is quite limiting for us. And also, let's not forget that the moon is approaching closure of the lunar month. And this is closure would mean that this is good for closing, finalizing things. It's not fine for new beginnings. When the moon on the 1st and the 2nd of February is with Saturn and Pluto, these 2 days are certainly not appropriate for new beginnings, for surgeries. They are appropriate to do your routine work, to do a lot of spiritual work, because Sagittarius is very spiritual sign, about high moral values, about high philosophical teaching. So this is quite fine and quite appropriate to do during these 2 days. On the 3rd of February and the 4th of February, first on the 3rd of February, the moon is entering Capricorn, where the moon is already invisible. So on the 2nd, it was the last lunar crescent, really day not to undertake any new things, because it is really, as I said, finalizing. And then on the 3rd and the 4th and the 5th, the moon will be invisible, will be hidden in the rays of the sun, which would say that the lunar god is descending into the netherworld. And with this, it's not helping us a lot. It's helping us if we will do spiritual practices, but if we will be praying for like wishes to come true, like what you hear by the modern astrology is, oh, on the new moon make your wishes. Well, I will tell you, not. The new moon is not while the moon is invisible. The new moon is new moon. It will be on the 6th of February, when you would see the first lunar crescent appearing in the evening on the western horizon. It's very easy. Look in the evening on the 6th of February, see to detect the moon, and this is the first lunar crescent, which marks the beginning of the lunar month. So 3rd, the moon is invisible, on a fall, detriment in Capricorn. The 4th, the situation is the same with Mercury. So on this day, it's not good to undertake any new things, certainly not good for surgical interventions, because the invisible moon is not helping at all. And then when on the 5th, you will hear that this is the new moon. No, I repeat, this is not the new moon. This is the big deception of our contemporary era. The new moon is when you see new moon, actually. And you will see the new moon on the 6th. And on the 6th, the new moon will be visible in Aquarius, conjoined very near spiritual star of the spiritual guru, the royal star Fomalhaut. So with this, we are marking a month which is very much about spirituality, consciousness, awareness, studies, new technologies, new information. And this is happening also because only a few days after, on the 13th of February, we will have the heliacal rise, the symbolical birth of Saturn and Mercury together. Look at my other very short video where I'm exactly explaining how this will manifest for us. But in general, it will be a lot about communication, a lot about technologies, artery stuff, sharing your information, sharing your own knowledge, obtaining knowledge, receiving truthful information and notion. So all this is happening from the 6th of February. And interestingly, on the 6th of February, there is also the moon receives harmonious aspect with from Jupiter. So it's quite, I see this as a very promising and good beginning of this particular lunar month. And it is fine for new beginnings if it's related to communication, sharing information, doing media work, internet work, things like that. Teaching, starting new studies. This will be wonderful, because both planets, even though Saturn and Mercury, even though they're not completely visible, they're preparing for the heliacal rise. By the way, I think in America, I'm talking about Europe, but in America, the situation is different with a few days. I think they're becoming visible during this particular timing. So 7th of February, the moon is still in Aquarius, in harmonious conjunction with Neptune. And I see this as a very nice thing again. Secret knowledge, intuition. Neptune can be very, very fine when we're seeking to expand our consciousness. So I see this as a very good thing. New beginnings, yes, you may. You may do also your routine work. You may travel. Surgical interventions are not appropriate on this particular day. And then we're having the 8th on the 8th of February, the moon is entering Pisces. Pisces is a sign very important for our era, because in Pisces is the point of the vernal, of the spring equinox, which is like marking our era. So, and the moon still receives aspect from Venus and from Saturn. So this is quite good for your routine work, for making money, maybe with hard work. It is, be cautious when do new beginnings, do a lot of spiritual work, it will be rewarded, and do empathic work. This will be a wonderful opportunity. Surgical interventions, no. On this day, no. Very similar will be the situation on the 9th of February, when the moon is approaching to meet Mars. At that particular moment, Mars is entering his own sign, which is very good for him. And the ones that would have Aries on the ascendant on this day, 9th of February, Aries is entering, Mars is entering Aries to meet their Uranus. So this can be very good when you have ambitious, when this is happening on your ascendant, when this is happening on your midheaven. But be careful still, because Mars can have this side to be a bit aggressive. So it depends how Mars is placed on your chart. Still, it is a good thing, but be careful when driving. Don't get involved in conflict. This day is not good for surgical interventions. 10th of February, the moon is making the exact conjunction. So the same will be valid. This will be good for your for plans, for mental work, will be also very interesting and maybe very emotional for your private life, for your relationships. As I said, at that particular moment, Saturn and Mercury are also preparing to rise. So be at this day, and also on the 11th of February, be patient with your beloved ones. Do attempts to do good negotiations, and you may do any work related to oratory work and negotiations. Travel, be a bit cautious, and surgical interventions, no. On the 11th, I would repeat nearly the same prognosis. The good thing is that on the 11th, the moon is having exact harmonious aspect with Venus, so this will be quite fine for your personal life, but still be very patient with your partners, because still Saturn and Mars are involved, Uranus as well. And then on the 12th of February, the moon has no course. When the moon is void, of course, not much can be done, because when this is happening, there are not so many potentials and opportunities, because the moon has no course. Basically, it's not moving. So on this day, just do your routine work. Absolutely no surgical interventions yet. 13th, I said also in another video, it's a very good day for some new beginnings, not for all. It's good for media work, it's good for negotiations, it's good for publishing, it's good for study, sharing knowledge, all these things. 14. On the 14th, the moon is quite well placed, conjoined with Rigel. It's a star, excuse me, of money. So this will be very fine for your routine business. Do your best to do well your work. You will be rewarded. You may need to do some extra costs because of the position of Jupiter at that time, but this is quite a good day. No surgical interventions. 15th, the moon is entering Betelgeuse, and it is receiving opposition from Saturn. So I would say do a lot of spiritual, esoteric work, communication. You may do carefully, not to receive obstacles and some limitations, but the moon is receiving the good trine from Mercury, so it's quite good day for communication. Still, be a bit careful because of the opposition of Saturn, which may require some additional work also in relation to communication and negotiations. And this is about the 15th of February. 16th of February is the exact conjunction with Saturn, aiming to make conjunction with Pluto, so quite the same will be applied here. So be very careful how you communicate. Still, you may use the date for communication and sharing and media and internet, all this. No surgical interventions. And then on the 17th of February, the moon is entering Cancer and receives the square of Mars. Careful when driving, careful when traveling, careful not to get involved in conflicts, communication, careful. Do a lot of spiritual work will be wonderful. Enhancing your intuition will be wonderful. Teaching, studies, all this will be good. Just psychological work, this would be really wonderful, but without taking any risks. Really be careful when there is an exact disharmonious aspect from Mars. And this is valid for particularly every point on Earth. On the 18th of February, yes, the moon is still in Cancer, already leaving the exact aspect with Mars, but still I would repeat the same. Be cautious. Do your routine work cautiously. On the 19th of February, the moon is already the full moon day. How this is felt by everyone, basically it's different. Some people are very happy with the full moon. Others, if the full moon is placed disharmoniously in their chart, if the moon is placed disharmoniously, you may experience this like a bit too emotional event. So see how it worked with you previous times and see what to do while the moon is full. But I think a lot can be done during the full moon. It can be a very artistic, very good in terms of creativity day. If you feel that you get too emotional or too stressed during the full moon, just do spiritual work and this will help. No surgical interventions for sure during the full moon day. Then you have the 20th of February. Well, this is day which can be appropriate for surgical interventions. It is much better than the previous days. Can be appropriate for esoteric work, for your routine work, for completing work. Not good for new beginnings. And then 19th of February, the day is fine for surgical interventions. But again, when I'm saying this, keep in mind that it can be different depending on the organ that will be approached surgically or medically. So this is just very basic. Really, when you will have serious surgical intervention, is good. You may contact me separately because this is very serious matter, and it is important. So on the 21st, it is fine for some medical interventions. It is fine to travel. It is fine to do your routine work. It is fine for communication, very much having into consideration the placement of Mercury again. 22nd, similar stuff. A bit more cautious in terms of surgical interventions because then the aspect with Saturn is becoming exact. On the 23rd of February, the moon is in Libra, very creative placement, good for artistic work, creative work. It is not good for new beginnings. Be cautious while driving, while traveling. Don't get in conflicts because of the opposition of Mars. But still, the moon is very good for creative work. 23 and 24 of February is this. Yes. And then on the 25th, the moon enters Scorpio. And on the 25th, the moon is passing through the sacred degrees of Scorpio. I have another video on the sacred degrees of Scorpio. They're very, very interesting, very sacred, very spiritual. So this placement of the moon is very fine for those who do medical work, philosophers, psychologists, those who are natural healers, those who are very intuitive, clairvoyant. So these are very interesting degrees of Hermes. So not good for surgical interventions. You may do medical interventions which are not invasive though. It's very good for sharing knowledge, for philosophical knowledge, for yes, for deep psychological teachings and lessons. For this, the day will be wonderful, and it's good for completing important tasks. And then we're having the 26th of February, when the moon is entering Antares, and Antares is royal star of Scorpio, very Martian. It is the star of the leader of the admiral of the. It's very Martian. It's a ruling star, and you may have such desires. Well, since the moon is already approaching last visibility, you may have this ambitious desire to do new beginnings. It's not appropriate, but to do your routine work with passion, it is wonderful. Surgical interventions, it is not good, not appropriate. You may do routine work, you may travel, you just may do a lot, and you will have this desire most probably during these days. And then on the 27th of February, the moon has no course. And as we said, this is not so fruitful in terms of achieving the desired results. Not good for surgical interventions. It's good to complete important tasks. It's like without expecting so much of reward or achievements. And then on the 28th, the moon is approaching Saturn. And let's be careful on this day. It's good to do routine work carefully. No intervention surgically. No, it's good to be careful. This is Saturn. It is very important to be, in order to benefit from this day, to be truthful, to maintain high moral values, because this is really Saturn. And this is what he requires from us, to be very disciplined, very exact in what we do. And this is the same is valid for the 1st of March, when the moon will be already in a exact conjunction with Saturn and approaching conjunction with Pluto. So with this, I'm completing the month. Luckily, during this month, we have no eclipses. We have a good event, which is about the first visibility of the two planets, Saturn and Mercury. And this is so good for communication. A lot of truthful knowledge will come out that those who seek will benefit from. So with this, I'm completing. Thank you very much.